أما الآن مع المتحدث محمد الحاج. محمد الحاج حاصل على دكتوراه من برنامج الطاقة المستدامة في كلية العلوم والهندسة بجامعة حمد بن خليفة. في بحث الدكتوراه الخاص به حصل على العديد من الجوائز، وكان حول الإمكانيات والتقنية لتحلية المياه بالطاقة الشمسية، تأثيراتها البيئية، جدواها الاقتصادية. وقد حصل محمد على درجة الماجستير في تكنولوجيا الطاقة من جامعة ماليزيا الوطنية، وشهادة البكالوريوس في هندسة ميكاترونكس ومن جامعة نوتنغهام. يعتبر محمد هو مؤسس مبادرة تعليمية سودا سولار، والتي تسعى إلى زيادة الوعي حول تكنولوجيا الطاقة المتجددة ودورها في التنمية المستدامة. الكلمة لك محمد.
Everyone for attending my talk. I think we have a break after this, so just bear with me. My name is Hamad Al-Haj, PhD graduate from the College of Science and Engineering at HBKU. I want to start off by just asking how many of the audience here is a graduate student, master's or PhD? Okay, so this is like maybe 1/3 of the room, so it's okay. The first thing I want to say is being a researcher is one of the most cool jobs that you can be involved in. I've noticed through like 7 years of research, my research journey as a graduate student, starting from master's to PhD, that researchers are very passionate about what they do. They like spending a lot of hours in the library, reading books, digging through data, trying to come up with conclusions. But what is most fascinating about researchers is their willingness to make an impact on the world. It could be through knowledge creation, as Henry mentioned, or it could be through applications. But this focus on making an impact is something essential for researchers. How many of you can say the same thing about your job? That it has an impact on the world, or that it solves a problem that people are currently facing? This is a question that I think all of us have to be asking constantly. But what is the recipe for making an impact as a researcher? So I've come up with 5 points that I think as a graduate researcher, if you focus on them, you can really make an impact or magnify the impact of your current research. The first one is passion. You need to work on something that you love. This is the most essential ingredient really of the recipe for making an impact as a researcher. Usually to find out what your passion is, it's something, I think it's a journey that starts from your undergrad. So I remember this started for me when I was at Nottingham University back in 2011, in my second year in Malaysia. One of our professors, later on he became my advisor. He's an associate professor in mechanical engineering. So at his doors, outside the door of his office, there was this sticker by a famous scientific institution that's called the American Solar Energy Society. And they had a picture of a sun, and then there was a tagline that goes like, "The solution rises every day." So for me, that was the sparking moment that made me very interested in solar energy and renewable energies in general, which is the research path that I worked on for the remaining years. From my bachelor's, my final year project was to develop a solar water boiler using a parabolic trough collector, very simple project. Then at the master's level, I went to something more challenging. That is, I was looking at the applications of solar energy for decentralized power generations back in my country, in Sudan. So I designed a plant and I compared several technologies. And then the PhD level as well continued on the same path. I knew that I didn't want to go outside solar energy. And my main motive really was because of the great role that renewable energies play in reducing the impacts of climate change and as also increasing energy access in developing world countries. So I continued working as well as solar energy in my PhD research, which was about using concentrated solar power for seawater desalination. And the motive for this project was again relating to the impact. So when I came to Qatar here in 2015, I learned that Qatar is one of the poorest countries in terms of freshwater resources and that it relies extensively on desalination. So I wanted to find whether we can use a clean energy source to power this technology and as a result reduce the energy associated impacts over the long term. So this was the passion that I worked on. A lot of times people ask me about this issue of passion, how do I know what I'm most passionate about? And my advice is always to keep learning, keep reading, read journals, go to webinars, read magazines. You need to put this effort to find out what you're most passionate about. The second thing is, after finding what your passion is you need to be good at it. It's not enough just to like something. You won't be able to make an impact as a researcher unless if you're good at it. And university usually is the universities pave the road for us to be good at research. So I did electronics engineering. In my bachelor's, I studied a lot of courses in thermodynamics, fluid mechanics, robotics, neural networks. And then at the master's level, I did more specialized courses focusing on solar energy, design of systems and their assessment. And at the PhD level as well, I was introduced to even some more advanced topics in renewable energy and in sustainability in general, like environmental assessment, desalination technologies, and so on. So these will create a good impact through my research. But one thing, honestly, that I benefited a lot from was self-learning, not just sticking to what the university offers. And I'm going to be very specific here, talking about some specific things that I did, which I think were very beneficial. That is, I would always try to be updated about the industry that I'm interested in. So my interest and my focus is renewable energy. I don't just read, for example, textbooks or scientific journal papers. No, I read also technical papers published by international organizations in my area. For example, International Renewable Energy Agency, American Solar Energy Society, International Society of International Solar Energy Society. These are like these organizations. They have a lot of reports that keep you updated about the industry, what's happening, things which you would not usually find in the curriculum. Because by the time something is in the university curriculum, usually the world has progressed significantly. So you need to be updated about your field. And this education mindset, I think it's best represented by a professor. Her name is Dr. Carol Dweck, where she calls it the growth mindset. That is, when students believe that they can get smarter, then they would be willing to put a lot of effort in order to improve their self and different skills. The third point, and this is, I would say, extremely essential, is to choose a good advisor. This is a photo of my advisor, Dr. Sami Ghamdi, my advisor from the PhD program. And I can confidently tell you now that I've finished my PhD that selecting a good advisor is the second most important decision you make in your life. Marriage being the first one, of course. And I would say regarding the advisor, it's not necessarily, from my experience, it doesn't necessarily have to be someone who's very good in your area of research. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone with a high number of citations, or a full professor, or someone with a high H index, or a world-renowned expert. It's a good if you have someone like that, he'll help you, but what is more important is to support you during difficult times. Someone who takes this role as seriously. And I'm not just saying this for students, but I'm also saying it because some of you later on, if you graduate and you become professors, try to keep these values in mind when you supervise other students. So throughout the period that I worked with Dr. Sami on my PhD project, I've learned a lot of things, a lot of skills that I'm going to share a few of them. The first one is about publications, and this is something that all graduate students do. We need to publish our work. But Dr. Sami, he told me something that is more relevant about this issue of publishing good journals. He is like, in your PhD program, the cycle is you do a research, like you take some courses, do research, and then you have to defend it in front of a committee, and then you get a certificate. This is what happens pretty much in all universities in the world. He told me that this is fine, but in order to make sure your final defense goes smoothly, you need to add another layer of verification apart from the committee's comments, and this is where publishing in high-quality, peer-reviewed journals becomes important. So that's why when I wrote my dissertation, it was structured into 5 chapters. Each chapter was basically a paper or a journal paper or a conference paper that I wrote and was published and already peer-reviewed. And you can be sure that in most cases, the reviewers in these journals are going to be relatively more experienced in the fields than the committee from your university, usually. So that's why my final defense, I was fortunate, alhamdulillah, it went really well, went really smooth. In fact, one of the external examiners, he was very happy with this strategy. Another thing that I learned from working with my advisor is the importance of working with a team. So I'm part of a research group that's called Sustainable Environment Research Group, and learning to work within research groups was something new to me. So this is one thing that my advisor highlighted, that we need to work with other members in the group. And when I say work with them, it means collaborating different projects, review some of their papers, assisting them on their projects, and so on. And he was also always eager that our work is projected in the media impact in the future. And this is another photo of us when we received last year the Rashid Award from Qatar. And on this note, something as well that I learned from working with my advisor is, as an advisor, the student advisor, should work as a team. So he once asked me, for example, that, do you know why every time you publish a paper, I will be always a co-author with you? So I told him, yeah, because you're my advisor. He's like, no, it's not just that. It's because we work together. We're supposed to be a team. I'm supposed to be familiar with your work. I know everything that you're doing, and I have a contribution as well. So this spirit of working as a team was something that I found extremely supportive throughout my journey as a graduate student. The last thing, which is also really important that I learned from my advisor, is that as a graduate researcher, you need to also give something back to the community. Usually as researchers, we are busy on the lab or on modeling and attending conferences, talking to experts, but what about the laymen? What about people who are not from the same discipline? What are you going to give to them? Do you even have a responsibility towards them, or is it, no, it's just fine, I'll just do my work and I don't care about the society? So my advisor highlighted this to us, and he told us that as a research group, we need to do something for the community. So we went to a nearby primary school. It's Qatar Academy Sidra. This is where the photo was taken. And we gave a short class, myself, one of my colleagues, about our work. So I spoke about my research, solar desalination. It sounds like a complex topic, but guess what? Those fifth grader students, they were really happy. They were they engaged a lot. They actually found the topic really interesting, and they were able to understand it. In this photo, I was just trying to explain to them how does desalination work, evaporation of water, and then condensation, and then why the current technology is harmful to the environment, and how using solar energy can reduce that impact. And it was actually a very fun experience. In the beginning, I was a bit scared that they might not understand, or it might be difficult, but it was very engaging, and they really liked it. So this was a simple initiative. It didn't take us more than 1 hour to give this for researchers to always be mindful of. The fourth point is, to be a good researcher, is that you need to go out of your comfort zone. And this is really the theme that you will find in all the talks you'll hear today, starting from Hamza Manai's talk to Manal, Najla, Henry, and all the other speakers, is that they face a lot of troubles and challenges. They didn't give up, and they continued to strive in order to achieve their goals. One way that I think this was resembled in my journey is through the multidisciplinary nature of my work. So I come from a mechanical engineering background. So when I started working on my project about seawater desalination, initially I was thinking of just looking at the technical, pure engineering side. But then my advisor is like, no, why don't we also include doing environmental assessment in a systematic way, not just for example, finding the CO2 emissions of your renewable energy power system, but looking at the environmental impact from cradle to grave. This is where I use something called life cycle assessment. And I also looked at policy research. Again, I'm not an expert in this, but I believe that because my area, which is desalination, is something that's relevant at a country level, I wanted to study how the current policies, for example, would support this technology. Are they supportive? If not, how can we recommend better policies to work to improve, to facilitate for this technology? So the point being is that don't be scared to develop into new areas of science during your research, because many times it can help you magnify the impact of your work. The last point is, it's 2 points combined in one. Basically, as a researcher, don't forget your long-term goals. So sometimes you get stuck in this loop of publishing and lab work and giving classes and collaborating with your peers, that you forget what's the next step. What am I going to do after I graduate? Do I want to go for academic career, or do I want to go for the industry, or I don't know, start my own company? So be mindful of these things and plan ahead for them. And at the same time, also try to think of your personal impact to the community, not your professional goals. So what are you as a researcher, someone with a prestigious degree like a PhD or even a master's, what are you going to give back to the society? So I thought about this back in 2016 when I was chatting with one of my friends in Costa Coffee here in Doha, and we were talking about the future, what we're going to do when we graduate and so on. So that's when it struck me that my passion and love for solar turned into a project that could educate other people and help them. So this is when I started the idea of Pseudo Solar. And it's a very simple idea actually. It's basically a Facebook page and a website that focuses on youth, educating them about the principles of renewable energy, of solar energies, how they can be used to increase energy access, especially in developing world countries, and sharing a lot of useful links about best universities, for example, to study the renewable energies and how to develop yourself in this career. Very simple initiative, just a Facebook page and a website, but luckily I found a lot of people quite interested in it, and I made it in Arabic language primarily, and it was also primarily focused on the youth from my country in Sudan, because in my journey as a graduate researcher, I was fortunate to study in a number of good universities that a lot of people may not be able to. So I wanted to try to share my knowledge through this initiative. Lastly, I want to say that, and this is something that I believe resonates with the theme of today's talks, resilience, is that throughout my journey I faced a lot of challenges, a lot of tough decisions that I had to make. Throughout this journey, I found that the most peaceful thing and the thing that gave me the most support was prayer, especially the istikhara prayer. For those of you who are Muslims, you would know this. This was something that made me very comfortable whenever I make big decisions, such as coming to Qatar to study or selecting Dr. Sam as my advisor or another big decision. This was something that gave me a lot of peace and a lot of strength. To conclude, my last sentence would be that remember that as a graduate researcher, the greatest, or as a human being in general, the greatest research quest of your life should be to find out the thing that you are most passionate about and how will you create an impact with that passion. Thank you very much.